Hey, welcome back to Mobility Project. Here's what's on tap today. This seminar this weekend, someone asked, hey, could you come up with a quick mobility prescription for some shin splints? Well, the first thing when you think about shin splints or some kind of pain in this front or anterior compartment, is if you've had shin splints, you know that they're vicious and brutal. Once we have kind of swollen, nasty calf, it's hard to undo, it's hard to unring that bell. You can think of it as, basically tearing off some of the insertion of that long tissue off the bone, and it becomes inflamed. It's a pain in the butt. At the very least, deep soreness can happen even from a lot of jumping workouts. I remember recently Adrian and I, not so long ago, Adrian and I did a long broad jump workout, and just landing with my heels down, just tore that stuff up. So if we take off the table kind of the fact that you're probably a heel striker if you're developing horrible hip shin splints, throwing that heel down, you're not kind of forefoot striking and sprinting with good mechanics, then how do we treat that thing? So the first thing, of course, is don't be afraid to ice that. But as we work up and down those tissues, we're trying to get to the bottom of it. One of the things we want to look at is, what's going on with this dorsiflexion. So typically we work on dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, and of the two, when you look at pulling the foot back, and that's dorsiflexion. What ends up happening is that, of course, the anterior compartment is responsible for that, and this muscle here, this anterior tibialis, if that thing is ropey and pissed, because it's fibrotic or short or repeatedly slammed it, one of the mechanisms your body does is create stiffness in that tissue to try to support the overworked tissues. And so if we just start by, hey, we may need to address some of the tissue right in this front of this compartment. And one of the things you see is that when we do our kind of hydration test, we're driving that thumb into the bone, it's easy for your lower legs to kind of create and capture some of that interstitial swelling and not let it go. And on those fibers in this little compartment, it's a little tiny compartment up here. It doesn't take much to get junky. So first thing we're going to do tonight is start by just opening up the tissues in the front of that compartment. So if you've overstretched something, or we rarely think about, hey, we need to mobilize this tissue. So very first thing to do, let's just take my right foot here. I'm just going to roll and see if I can roll over. And then I'm going to open up and trap that foot in this position. So I've just trapped the foot, slightly internally rotated there, and then I'm just going to open up and stretch the bottom of the foot out. And I just lean back and I get this big, nice global stretch to that tissue. Stop short of pain, contract, 5 seconds, drive your feet in the ground, release. Keep winding up, go a little bit further. And you should be able to open this up. One of Romanoff's Coach Romanoff of Post-Tech, one of his foot exercises for runners to kind of inoculate them is to be able to load that front of that leg and catch and be able to absorb force there. It's one of his ideas. So if I just contract, relax there for a second, tight, release, open up a little bit further, get tight, 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 release, open a little bit further. One of the things you'll see, even just that, is how much better I have activation, because this tissue isn't quite so tight, and literally you can see in the foot positioning, I'm in a much better position because I'm just not so stiff. Pointing, you can even see I get into better plantar flexion because I just have a little bit longer length there. So that's one idea. Let's treat the tissue. Can I absolutely take my lacrosse ball, do the same thing? So I can get a little tack there, get a little pressure there, and then make some circles. So let's think about kind of working that anterior compartment right up and downstream. Just make some circles. If you want to use your beautiful trigger point roller in TP therapy, go ahead and same rolling idea. Think about going really slow through those tissues. One of the mistakes that we make is that we hustle too much. You can see the difference just by opening that up quickly. It gives me a lot more range of motion. I get better point, better triple extension. Is that we hustle too fast over this. One of the models that comes from Rolfing is to go really slow and build a little pressure wave. So, even if I'm tacking my foot or using the trigger point setup here, getting a little pressure on top, one of the mistakes that we try to go really fast, go really slow, build some pressure side to side, and think about building a little pressure wave and just working your way across. And that's as you especially put that ball into tender bits, go really slow, you'll feel the tissue heal. Now, as we work upstream and downstream, I certainly need to work on my calf. Behind, if I'm really, really tight through this area, then it's basically like holding and tacking my heel down, and then that anterior compartment has to pull against those brakes. So I want to make sure that my heel cord is loose. I can use anything to make sure that that's unglued around, just get that skin moving. I make sure that my heel cords, I can stretch my calves. I can work and roll the bottom of the foot. There's another idea of feeding slack forward. And then finally, as an idea, you can go ahead and do this beautiful mulligan, where I'm going to wind that foot up, and I can do it either forward or backwards. But I'm just going to go ahead and camp out and make sure I've got good ankle range and just fold forward. The key is not to let the ankle collapse into pronation. I need to keep that ankle in neutral. To do that, I'm going to have to screw my foot out. Whoa, almost dislocated my toe there. And then I'm just going to press in, keep the ankle in neutral, don't let it pronate, and just kind of press in, make sure you can open up, just oscillate, you contract, press in, release, come a little further, try to keep your heel on the ground. You'll feel nice, beautiful stretching in the back here. If you feel impinged, switch around the other way. And again, test, retest is what it's all about. Bam! Look at that. So that's going to give me a lot more options, and I get better kind of activation of the floor on the other side. Deal with that, then you're going to have to deal with the swelling, deal with the pissed off tissue, and then you got to restore slidability and supplability.